Hi there, my name is Simon, and I am a PhD candidate from the Department of Anthropology at Cornell University, and I will be presenting very brief notes on Chapter 3 of Nigel Dodd's book, The Social Life of Money, where he deals with debt and the credit theories of money. So, please. And so I just wanted to start with a couple of stories about debt and credit. Debt and credit through history and a variety of places all around the world actually have been sort of significant themes or very sort of of special significance across the social landscape, incorporating what people consider moral. So the first story comes from Plato's Republic, and in the very first few pages of this book, Socrates gets into a conversation with an older gentleman named Cephalus, and Socrates sees that this man is quite old, and so he asks him, "Oh well, since you might be contemplating, the end of your life, perhaps you've been thinking about, your life, and so I was wondering, what do you think makes a good life?" And so Cephalus says, what makes a good life? Two things, basically. Don't lie or tell the truth, and settle your debts. So there's central to living a good life and dying well. Debt figures central to all of this. There's another story, 7th century Japan, where a Buddhist monk talks about reincarnation. And if you die and you have a lot of debts, you won't come back, it's believed, as a human. You'll come back as an ox or a cow. But there's another story which relates to credit, and so it's about this older woman, and she's a creditor, and so she gives money to a lot of people around town, and when they don't pay back, she gets angry and chases them down and says, "Give me my money back." And then given that she's old, one day she passes away. And so the family hold a funeral for her, and during the funeral, she jumps out of her coffin, and she's completely, she looks like a monster. Basically, half her body is an ox or a cow, with half her body being human. And so, she's like terrorizing her family until they all pay the debt. So the family goes around town, tries to gather all the money and give it back to her so the monster stops terrorizing them. But this sort of gives you the idea that, if you have debt, okay, you come back as a cow, but also if you're a creditor and you're a really bad creditor, you might also come back as a cow. So these are sort of stories of the significance embedded in people's social lives that revolve around debt and credit as well. So what the chapter focuses on is not debt, the sort of narrow definition of debt between two individuals, between one lender and one creditor. One lender and one debtor, rather. But more a sort of collectivized notion of debt. So an economic community, so between the individual and society, right? And there are two schools of thought here. There's money as credit and money as debt, which I will explain in the next slide a little bit more. So money as credit, and this, in the chapter, we're going to be discussing Simmel and Graeber, and this is their perspective. So this basically means society's debt to the individual, right? So individuals, for Simmel's claim, it's sort of, we use money as a claim upon society. It's individuals, through their use of money, they're sort of forming a community, an economic community, right? And then as they do this, there's a certain expectation that society will support us, will give back to us, right? So in this sense, the individual is kind of like a creditor. We give credit to the society, and society is indebted to us, right? And this, for Simmel and Graeber, there's a kind of a weak sense of society. So what makes up society? And so society is sort of the outcome of collective individual action. Ongoing action. Now, money is debt, which we'll be looking at a variety of thinkers. They are associated with the school of thought called chartalism and neo-chartalism. And they have sort of the inverse relationship where it's individuals' debt to society. So you have this sort of primordial society, usually embodied in the state, that sort of pays out as a creditor to individuals, who individuals then give back to the state. From this angle, you have a very strong sense, a very solid sense of society. So you have society-state sort of gathers and organizes the economy. So in a sense, whereas this perspective, individuals compose society. In this sense, it's in the money as debt sense, it's society composes individuals, right? You have sort of this two-way kind of way of thinking. And then we're going to close up the chapter with the notion of overbanking from Susan Strange, where she sort of shows how finance erodes the social foundations of money. And we'll be talking about that in more detail. Thank you.